When I collapsed at work, the doctors called my family. 3 children. They never came. 3 days later, still hooked to machines, I saw Lauren's post, "Best vacation ever. No unsolicited advice. Included tasks, pure bliss." The caption hurt more than the IV in my arm. Then 67 missed calls appeared with one message, "Dad, we need you." That's when I realized I wasn't their father. I was their emergency fund. I didn't call back. I didn't cry. That's when everything changed. That moment in the hospital changed everything for me. But before I share what happened, when I finally made my decision, comment below and tell me where you're watching from. 9:30 p.m. at Peterson Marketing Solutions, and I was drowning in quarterly reports. Lauren's latest startup pitch kept replaying in my head. Just 80,000, Dad. While Rowan burned through cash in LA and Lindsay lived like money grew on trees. The chest pain hit like a sledgehammer, sharp, insistent, nothing like the usual stress headaches. I loosened my tie, tried to breathe, but the world tilted sideways. The gray carpet rushed up to meet me, and Jennifer from accounting was screaming, "Call 911." EMT Captain Rex Howard had kind eyes and steady hands. "Possible cardiac event." His partner, paramedic Ivy Stone, radioed ahead as we swayed through San Francisco traffic toward UCSF Medical Center. Dr. Archer Bell met us at emergency, silver-haired, calm as still water. "Mr. Peterson, you've had what we call a cardiac episode, your body's way of saying slow down." Nurse Sloan Price inserted my IV with gentle efficiency. "We've called your emergency contacts. Your children should be here soon." Day 1 passed. No Lauren, no Rowan, no Lindsay. Day 2. Gary Sullivan, my business partner of 15 years, showed up with flowers and a bewildered expression. "Where the hell is everyone?" I made excuses. They were busy. They lived far away. The lies tasted bitter. Day 3. Still nothing, not even a text. The hospital staff tried to hide their pity, but I caught the looks. The man whose own children couldn't be bothered to visit. Gary stopped by again, shaking his head in disbelief. "Griffin, this isn't right. I'd built Peterson Marketing Solutions from nothing, worked 70-hour weeks to fund their dreams. Lauren's 4 failed startups, 180,000 down the drain. Rowan's creative investments in Los Angeles, 45,000 a year. Lindsay's luxury lifestyle, 60,000 annually. I was their ATM, their safety net, their solution to every problem. But when I needed them, radio silence. That evening, as sunset painted my hospital room, orange and gold, I finally reached for my phone. The screen blazed with notifications. Missed calls from clients, emails from employees, and there, glowing like a warning beacon, an Instagram alert from Lauren. 3 days of silence, and now this. My finger hovered over the notification. The heart monitor beeped steadily beside me, counting out the seconds of my isolation. Whatever was waiting behind that little red bubble was about to shatter, the last of my illusions about family. I'd given them everything. My time, my money, my health. I'd worked myself into a hospital bed, believing that sacrifice meant love, that providing meant caring. But love, I was learning, was supposed to flow both ways. The notification pulsed on my screen, demanding attention. After 72 hours of wondering where my children were, I was about to find out exactly what they'd been doing while their father fought for his life. My thumb moved toward the screen. The screen lit up, and Lauren's smiling face filled my phone. Sonoma County Vineyard stretched behind her golden afternoon light, catching the wine glasses in their hands. All 3 of my children, Lauren, Rowan, Lindsay, arms draped around each other, faces glowing with laughter and expensive wine. But it was the caption that stopped my heart. "Best vacation ever. No unsolicited advice. Included Norvatch pure bliss." The words hit me like a physical blow. No unsolicited advice. That's what they called my years of guidance. My attempts to help them build real careers. Real lives. Unsolicited advice. The heart monitor beside my bed erupted in rapid beeps. Nurse Sloan Price rushed in her face, tight with concern. "Mr. Peterson, your heart rate just spiked. Are you experiencing chest pain?" I stared at the ceiling tiles, fighting back something that felt dangerously close to tears. "Just tired," I lied. But I wasn't tired. I was devastated. While I'd been unconscious fighting for my life, my children had been living it up in wine country, not wondering if their father was okay, not caring that he'd collapsed from the stress of supporting their dreams. The flashbacks came in waves. Lauren's first startup, a social media platform for pet owners, $25,000. "It's going to be huge, Dad." It lasted 6 months. Her second venture, organic meal kits, 40,000 down the drain. Then the fitness app, the jewelry line, the podcast network. $180,000 of my sweat and sacrifice gone. Rowan wasn't any better. I'm building my portfolio, Dad. Los Angeles is where the real photography opportunities are. $45,000 a year for his artistic journey. Rent in West Hollywood expensive camera equipment. Networking events that looked more like parties. And Lindsay, my baby girl, living in her luxury San Francisco apartment like she was born to champagne and caviar. $60,000 a year so she could focus on her marketing career without the stress of actual budgeting. Dr. Bell appeared at my bedside checking my vitals with practiced efficiency. Everything all right? Your numbers are concerning. Fine, I managed, but my voice cracked on the word. I scrolled through more photos. Wine tasting at 3 different vineyards. Spa day with cucumber facials and massage therapy. Dinner at some Michelin-starred restaurant, the kind of place where appetizers cost more than most people's grocery budget. They looked so happy, so carefree, so completely unburdened by worry about their father lying in a hospital bed. Lauren had tagged the location, Auberge du Soleil, Napa Valley. I knew that resort. $1,500 a night minimum. Who was paying for this little family bonding experience? Certainly not my children who couldn't manage their own rent without Daddy's help. The irony was suffocating. I'd worked myself into cardiac arrest funding their lifestyles, and they'd used my absence to finally have the family time they'd apparently always wanted. Without me. Without the man who made it all possible. My phone felt heavy in my hands as I stared at their smiling faces. 3 days I'd been here. 3 days of wondering if they were worried, if they cared, if they even knew what had happened to me. Now I had my answer. The phone suddenly erupted in violent buzzing. Notification after notification flooded the screen. 67 missed calls, the display read. All from Lauren, Rowan, and Lindsay. I stared at the numbers, my heart sinking even further. They weren't calling because they'd suddenly remembered they had a father. They were calling because they needed something. They always needed something. The timestamps told the whole story. First call at 8:47 a.m., probably when Lauren's credit card got declined. Then every 15 minutes after that, growing more frantic. By noon, they were calling every 5 minutes. A text message popped up as I scrolled, Dad, emergency call now. Then another, where are you? Need money today. Jessica's app is dying without funding. Jessica. I didn't even know who Jessica was, but apparently her app was my responsibility too. I set the phone aside without responding. For the first time in years, their panic wasn't my problem. Footsteps in the hallway caught my attention. Gary Sullivan appeared in the doorway carrying 2 cups of coffee and wearing the kind of bewildered expression I'd seen on his face during our worst client meetings. Where is everyone? He asked, looking around the empty room like he'd missed something obvious. I held up my phone, showing him Lauren's Instagram story. Gary's face went through several emotions. Confusion, disbelief, then something that looked like anger. They posted this while you were unconscious. His voice was flat dangerous. Apparently, family bonding works better without the provider present. Gary pulled up a chair, setting the coffee on my bedside table. Griffin, we need to talk. He pulled out his tablet, fingers dancing across the screen. I've been looking at your personal accounts. The ones tied to the business credit line. Bank statements filled the screen. Numbers I'd tried not to think about for months. Monthly outflows to Lauren, Gary said, pointing at the recurring transfers. 6,000, sometimes 8, when she has a breakthrough moment with whatever she's launching. My stomach clenched. Rowan's rent and expenses in L.A. 4,000 a month plus equipment purchases, networking events, professional headshots. Gary's finger traced down the list. And Lindsay's lifestyle maintenance. 5,000 monthly, not counting the shopping sprees and emergency car repairs. $15,000 every single month, for years. Gary, they're my children. No. His voice cut through my excuse like a blade. Children love you back. Children visit you in the hospital. Children don't post vacation photos while their father is fighting for his life. He leaned forward, his eyes intense. You're not their father, Griffin. You're their ATM. The words hit harder than my heart attack had. Because they were true. When's the last time Lauren called just to see how you were doing? Not for money. Not for advice about some failing business venture. Just to talk. I opened my mouth, then closed it. I couldn't remember. When's the last time Rowan sent you one of his photographs? Not asking for equipment money, just sharing his work with his dad. Silence. When's the last time Lindsay invited you to dinner? Her treat, not yours. The heart monitor beeped, steadily counting out the seconds of my realization. Gary saved the bank statements and closed the tablet. You built a successful company, Griffin. 4.2 million in annual revenue. 30 employees who respect you. Clients who trust you. He stood up, coffee untouched. But somewhere along the way you forgot that being a provider doesn't make you a father. The room felt different after he said it. Lighter somehow, like a weight I'd been carrying had suddenly shifted. Gary, I called as he reached the door. Can you bring my laptop tomorrow? He turned back, and for the first time in 3 days, I saw something like hope in his expression. Now you're talking. After he left, I stared at the ceiling tiles, but this time it wasn't with despair. It was with something I hadn't felt in years, determination. My children had made their choice clear. They wanted family time without their father. Maybe it was time to give them exactly what they wanted. The next morning, Gary arrived with my laptop to find me already sitting, upright hospital gown replaced with my own clothes. For the first time in days, I felt like myself again. You look different, he said, setting the laptop on my bedside table. I feel different. I opened the banking app with steady hands, no tremor of doubt. Let's do this. The Bank of America customer service representative sounded cheerful and helpful. Good morning, Mr. Peterson. How can I assist you today? I need to cancel some automatic transfers and remove authorized users from my accounts. Certainly, sir. Can I have your account number? Gary watched as I methodically dismantled the financial infrastructure that had supported my children's lifestyles for years. Lauren Peterson, authorized user on account ending in 4789. Remove her immediately. Done, Mr. Peterson. Is there anything else? Cancel automatic payment to Westwood Luxury Apartments in Los Angeles. $3,200 monthly. Rowan's rent, gone. Stop recurring payment to BMW Financial Services. $890 monthly. Lindsay's car payment, terminated. Remove all 3 children from emergency fund access. Revoke their debit cards linked to the business account. Each cancellation felt like breathing again. Gary nodded approvingly as I worked through the list we'd prepared the night before. Transfer limits on all accounts. Require my physical signature for any amount over $500. All changes have been processed, Mr. Peterson. Your new cards will arrive within 7 business days. I hung up and looked at Gary. How do you feel? He asked. Lighter than I've felt in years. And I meant it. The constant weight of financial responsibility, the monthly anxiety about their spending, the guilt over saying no, it was gone. Nurse Sloane Price entered to check my vitals and stopped short. Mr. Peterson, you look better. Much better. I feel better. She checked the heart monitor readout. Your blood pressure is the best it's been since you arrived. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. After she left, Gary and I sat in comfortable silence. The morning sun streamed through the window, and for the first time in months, I wasn't mentally calculating how much money my children would need this week. You know they're going to call, Gary said quietly. I know. They're going to be angry. They'll say you're abandoning them, that you're having a breakdown, that this isn't the father they know. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe the father they knew was the problem? Gary smiled. There's the Griffin Peterson I remember. The one who built a company from nothing, who made tough decisions, who didn't let anyone walk all over him, except my own children. Well, that stops today. As if summoned by our conversation, my phone erupted in violent ringing. Lauren's contact photo filled the screen. A picture from her college graduation when she'd hugged me tight and whispered, "Thanks for everything, Dad. I'm going to make you proud." That felt like a lifetime ago. The phone continued ringing, demanding attention. Gary raised an eyebrow. You going to answer that? I stared at the screen, my finger hovering over the green button. 3 days of silence from them, and now within hours of cutting off their money supply, they were calling. The timing said everything I needed to know about their priorities. My finger moved toward answer. I pressed the green button. Hi, Lauren? Her voice hit me like a slap. Dad, what the hell did you do? No concern about my health. No apology for the vacation photos. Just pure rage about money. I'm recovering from a cardiac episode, sweetheart. This isn't about that. My card got declined at Whole Foods. Do you know how embarrassing that was? Fix it now. The entitlement in her voice was staggering. 3 days of radio silence, and her first words weren't, "How are you feeling?" but demands about her credit card. Lauren, I think we need to talk about... The line went dead. She'd hung up on me. Immediately my phone buzzed again. Rowan's name flashed on the screen. Dad. His voice was thick with tears, the kind of manufactured emotion he'd perfected as a teenager. I just got an eviction notice. They're saying my rent bounced. There has to be some mistake. No mistake, son. Maybe it's time to find roommates. Roommates, Dad. I'm building my portfolio. I can't have random people disrupting my creative space. Creative space. His $1,500 a month West Hollywood apartment that I'd been funding while he took Instagram photos of sunsets. Then maybe it's time to build your portfolio somewhere more affordable. Dad, what's wrong with you? This isn't like you. He was right. The old me would have already transferred the money, would have apologized. For the inconvenience, would have promised it wouldn't happen again. I have to go rowing. I was packing my few belongings when the phone rang again. Lindsay's contact photo, my baby girl at her college graduation, filled the screen. Daddy! Her voice was soft, concerned nothing like Lauren's shriek or Rowan's tears. Are you okay? I heard about your episode. Finally, someone who cared. I'm better now, sweetheart. Good, because I'm worried about your mental state. This thing with the credit cards and the rent payments, it's not rational. Are you having some kind of breakdown? And there it was, the manipulation wrapped in fake concern. Dr. Archer Bell appeared with my discharge papers, raising an eyebrow at my obvious phone conversation. Lindsay, I'm clearer than I've been in decades. Daddy, that's exactly what someone having a breakdown would say. Look, we've been talking, Lauren, Rowan, and me, and we think you need help. What kind of help? Her voice shifted, losing the fake sweetness. Professional help. Someone to make sure you're making good decisions. Someone to protect you from yourself. Dr. Bell handed me the clipboard to sign. His expression suggested he'd heard enough of the conversation to understand what was happening. I'm signing my discharge papers right now, Lindsay. I'm perfectly capable of making my own decisions. Are you, though, cutting off your children's support without warning, isolating yourself in that hospital room? These aren't the actions of a stable person. The audacity was breathtaking. They'd isolated themselves from me, but somehow I was the one with the problem. I have to go. Daddy, wait. We're worried about you. We're going to get you help, whether you want it or not. The threat in her voice was unmistakable. I hung up and looked at Dr. Bell, who was shaking his head. Family can be complicated, he said diplomatically. That's one way to put it. As I drove home through San Francisco traffic, Lindsay's words echoed in my mind. We're going to get you help, whether you want it or not. I'd cut off their money, so now they were going after my autonomy. They weren't worried about my mental health. They were worried about their meal ticket. But I knew exactly what kind of help they had in mind, and I needed to be ready for it. 2 days later, my doorbell rang at 8 a.m. sharp. Through the peephole, I saw a young man in a cheap suit, holding an official-looking envelope. Process server. I opened the door and accepted the papers with steady hands. Griffin Peterson. That's me. You've been served. Have a good day, sir. I closed the door and tore open the envelope. The legal letterhead made my stomach clench. Emergency petition for temporary conservatorship. The words swam before my eyes. My own children were trying to have me declared mentally incompetent. The petition claimed I was mentally unstable and financially reckless. Evidence included chronic overwork leading to cardiac episodes, social isolation, and sudden abandonment of long-standing family financial obligations. They'd twisted everything. My work ethic became mental illness. My hospitalization became proof of instability. My decision to stop funding their lifestyles became abandonment of obligations. I called Megan White immediately. Griffin, I wasn't expecting to hear from you so soon. Megan, I need a lawyer. My children are trying to have me declared incompetent. Silence. Then I'll be right over. Megan White had been the best family attorney in San Francisco for 20 years. She'd handled my divorce, my custody agreements, and now apparently my children's attempt to steal my autonomy. She reviewed the petition with the kind of cold precision that made her expensive and effective. This is financial abuse disguised as concern, she said flatly. They're not trying to protect you, Griffin. They're trying to protect their income stream. Can they do this? They can try. But they'll need to prove you're genuinely incompetent, not just making decisions they don't like. She pulled out her tablet. We need medical records showing your mental competency bank statements, proving your financial acumen and character witnesses. Gary Sullivan will testify. He's seen the company books, knows I'm sharp. Good. What about your medical team? Dr. Bell treated me. He'll confirm I was coherent. Made rational decisions about my treatment. Megan made notes. The irony here is beautiful. They're claiming you're financially reckless, while you've been supporting 3 adult children who can't manage their own money. How long do we have? Court date is set for 2 weeks. That's aggressive. They're panicking. She looked up from her notes. Griffin, what triggered this? What made them so desperate they'd risk a public legal battle? I told her about the credit cards, the rent payments, the car loan. Her expression shifted from professional interest to something like admiration. You cut them off completely. Every automatic payment, every authorized user privilege, every emergency fund access. And how long had you been supporting them? Years. Lauren alone has cost me over $180,000 in failed ventures. Megan whistled low. They're not protecting your mental health, Griffin. They're protecting their lifestyle. She closed her tablet. This is going to be easier than I thought. Adult children suing their father for financial support rarely plays well with judges. What do I need to do? Stay calm, document everything, and let me handle the legal strategy. She stood to leave, then paused. Griffin, can I ask you something? What changed? What made you finally say no? I thought about the Instagram posts, the vacation photos, the caption that had cut deeper than any scalpel. I realized I wasn't their father anymore. I was just their ATM. Well, now they're about to learn the difference. As she reached the door, something crystallized in my mind. A decision so clear, so perfect, it took my breath away. Megan, wait. I want to sell my company. She turned back, her expression shifting to shock. Griffin, are you sure? I've never been more sure of anything in my life. Megan studied my face for a long moment, then nodded. All right then, let's make some calls. Within 48 hours, I was sitting across from Alan Cooper, Executive Director of Cooper & Associates Marketing. We'd been competitors for 15 years, and he'd made offers before. Offers I'd always declined because I thought I was building something for my children. Griffin, I'll be honest, I've wanted Peterson Marketing for a decade. Alan spread the acquisition papers across the conference table. Your client list is gold, your team is solid, and your reputation is impeccable. What are you offering? $3.8 million, cash. I keep your entire staff, honor all existing contracts, and you walk away clean. $3.8 million. More money than my children could spend in a lifetime, even with their expensive tastes. I'll take it. Alan's eyebrows shot up. Don't you want to think about it? Negotiate. The number's fair. When can we close? 2 weeks, if your lawyers approve the contracts. I shook his hand. Deal. Somehow, and I suspected Lauren had contacts in my office, word reached my children within hours. My phone exploded with calls. Dad, you can't sell our inheritance. Lauren's voice was shrill with panic. It's not your inheritance, sweetheart. It's my company. We've been counting on that business. We have plans. Maybe you should have made your own plans. Rowan called next, tears streaming through his voice. Dad, this is our future you're destroying. No, son, this is me building my own future. Lindsay tried a different approach. Cold, calculated manipulation. If you sell that company, you'll have nothing left to leave us. Is that really what you want your legacy to be? My legacy isn't what I leave you. It's what I do with my own life. The court hearing was almost anticlimactic. Judge Patricia Morrison reviewed my medical records, business financial statements, and character witness testimonies. Dr. Bell testified that I was mentally sharp and made rational decisions about my treatment. Gary spoke about my business acumen and the company's success under my leadership. My children's lawyer, a nervous young man who clearly knew he had a weak case, tried to argue that selling a successful business was proof of mental instability. Judge Morrison wasn't buying it. Mr. Peterson has built and operated a multi-million-dollar company for over a decade. His medical records show no cognitive impairment. His decision to liquidate his assets, while perhaps disappointing to his children, is entirely within his rights. She banged her gavel. Petition for conservatorship is denied. Outside the courthouse, my children were waiting. The masks had come off completely now. No more fake concern, no more manufactured tears, just raw fury. You've ruined us, Lauren screamed. How are we supposed to live? Get jobs, I said simply. This is financial abuse, Rowan shouted. You can't just cut us off. Watch me. Lindsay tried one last manipulation. Dad, please, we're family. We love you. I looked at her, really looked at her for the first time in years. No, Lindsay, you love my money. There's a difference. I turned toward my car, their voices rising behind me. You'll regret this. We'll never speak to you again. You're destroying this family. I paused at my car door and turned back one final time. I'm not destroying this family. I'm done being your safety net. Time to learn how to fly on your own. As I drove away, their figures grew smaller and smaller in my rearview mirror until they disappeared completely. For the first time in 20 years, I was driving toward my own future instead of theirs. 1 week later, I signed the purchase papers for a 2023 Winnebago Vista, fully equipped with everything a man could need for life on the road. The salesman seemed surprised when I paid the $68,000 in cash. No financing, no trade-in. "You sure know what you want," he said, handing me the keys. "For the first time in years, yes I do." The house sale closed the following Tuesday. 47 years of accumulated possessions. Furniture, appliances, photo albums of family vacations that now felt like elaborate lies, all donated to Goodwill. I kept one suitcase of clothes, my laptop, and a set of oil paints I'd bought in college and never opened. Route 66 stretched ahead of me like a promise. East towards something new, something mine. My first stop was the Grand Canyon. I parked the RV at Mather Point and watched the sun paint the canyon walls in shades of gold and crimson. For the first time in 20 years, I pulled out those oil paints and tried to capture what I was seeing. My hands were rusty, my technique amateur, but something inside me that had been dormant for decades stirred to life. A fellow RV traveler, a woman named Dorothy from Ohio, stopped to admire my work. "You're pretty good at that." "I used to paint in college, before life got in the way." "Life has a way of doing that," she said. "But it's never too late to get back to who you were before the world told you who you had to be." Yellowstone was next. I hiked trails I'd only seen in photographs, my legs growing stronger with each mile. The cardiac episode felt like something that had happened to someone else. Other travelers shared their stories around evening campfires. People who'd chosen freedom over obligation, adventure over security. In Colorado, parked beside a crystal-clear mountain lake, I realized my phone had been off for 3 days and I hadn't even noticed. No emergency calls from children, no crisis that required my immediate financial intervention. Just silence, and for the first time in my adult life, silence felt like peace. A man named Frank, traveling in a converted school bus with his dog, shared his story over morning coffee. "I worked 30 years building someone else's dream," he said. "My ex-wife's dream house, my kid's dream college, funds my boss's dream profits. One day I woke up and realized I'd never built my own dream. What changed? I stopped asking permission to live my own life." He scratched his dog behind the ears. "I waited too long to choose myself. Don't make my mistake." That night, staring up at stars, unpolluted by city lights, I understood something profound. I wasn't running away from my old life. I was running towards something I'd lost decades ago. Myself. The Rocky Mountains gave way to rolling plains, then forests, then the gentle hills of the south. Each mile took me further from the man who'd worked himself into a hospital bed for children who couldn't be bothered to visit. Somewhere in Tennessee, I programmed my final destination into the GPS Asheville, North Carolina. I'd always loved the mountains, always dreamed of a place where the pace was slower, where people valued time over money, where a man could breathe. The GPS estimated arrival time 4 hours and 37 minutes. 4 hours until I could start the life I'd always wanted but never had the courage to claim. The highway curved through mountain passes past waterfalls and overlooks that took my breath away. And then cresting a hill, as the afternoon sun slanted through the trees, I saw a green highway sign that felt like a finish line. "Welcome to Asheville, North Carolina. Elevation 234 feet. I pulled over and stared at those words until they blurred. Somewhere behind me was the man who'd sacrificed everything for people who saw him as an ATM. Ahead was someone I'd never had the chance to meet. Myself. My RV crested the final hill, and the Blue Ridge Mountains spread below me like a promise kept. Rolling peaks stretched to the horizon, painted in every shade of green nature could imagine. This was home. I could feel it in my bones. The house came on the market 3 days after I arrived. A modest mountain home with wraparound porches and views that took your breath away. $280,000 cash. No mortgage stress, no monthly payments hanging over my head like storm clouds. "You sure you don't want to finance this?" the realtor asked, clearly confused by a cash buyer in today's market. "I'm sure. I'm done with debt. Done with obligations I can't control." Peterson Consulting opened 6 weeks later. Not Peterson Marketing Solutions. That belonged to my old life. This was something smaller, more personal. 25 hours a week maximum. Select clients only. People who valued expertise over exploitation. My daily routine became sacred. Morning hikes through mountain trails, breathing air so clean it hurt my lungs in the best possible way. Afternoon painting sessions on my back porch, finally finishing landscapes I'd started in my mind decades ago. Evening reading by the fireplace, books I'd always meant to get to but never had time for. The neighbors welcomed me without questions about my past or expectations about my future. Margaret from next door brought homemade apple pie and stayed for coffee that lasted 3 hours. Tom across the street invited me to join his weekly poker game, not because he needed something, but because he enjoyed my company. For the first time in my adult life, people valued me for who I was, not what I could provide. The 1-year milestone hit me unexpectedly. I was hiking my favorite trail when I realized I felt stronger than I had in decades. At my annual checkup, Dr. Sarah Chen shook her head in amazement. Your blood pressure is perfect. Your stress markers are the lowest I've ever seen. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. I'm living my own life instead of everyone else's. She smiled. Best medicine there is. My phone still buzzed occasionally with texts from my children. Ignored messages that I glimpsed but never opened. Lauren's business ventures continued to fail. Rowan moved back in with friends. Lindsay learned to live within her means. They survived without me just like I'd known they would. The guilt I'd expected never came. Instead, there was something I hadn't felt in 20 years. Pride. Not in what I'd built for others, but in what I'd finally built for myself. Sitting on my porch one evening watching the sunset paint the mountains gold, I understood something profound. The best inheritance I could give my children wasn't money or a business or a safety net. It was showing them how to live free. They might hate me for it now, but someday, maybe when they're 52 and working themselves into hospital beds for people who don't appreciate them, they might remember their father who chose himself. If you've ever felt guilty for putting your own needs first, I hope my story reminds you that choosing peace isn't betrayal, it's survival. If you've ever been called selfish for finally setting boundaries, remember that self-care isn't selfish, it's necessary. Your family can keep their guilt trips, their manipulation, their version of what love should look like. You keep your sanity, your health, your right to live on your own terms. The sunrise is painting my mountains pink and gold as I finish this story. My coffee is still warm, my easel is set up for another day of painting, and for the first time in my life, I have nowhere to be but here. Finally, I'm home. Looking back at my journey, I realize I spent decades confusing love with obligation. Don't be like me. Don't wait until you're lying in a hospital bed to understand that being a provider doesn't make you a father. Don't sacrifice your health, your dreams, your very soul for people who see you as nothing more than a walking wallet. The hardest lesson I learned is that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is stop enabling. When I finally said no, my children didn't thank me. They sued me. But God has a way of showing us our true worth when we finally have the courage to see it. This true story taught me that boundaries aren't walls. They're bridges to genuine relationships. Real family doesn't disappear when the money stops flowing. Real love doesn't come with a price tag attached. If you're reading this and thinking about your own situation, remember, you can't pour from an empty cup. You can't save people who don't want to be saved. And you can't love someone into loving you back. I've heard countless grandpa stories from other men who worked themselves to death for ungrateful families. Don't let that be your true story. Don't wait for a cardiac episode to realize that your worth isn't measured by your bank account. The mountains of North Carolina taught me something my children never could, that peace is priceless and freedom is the greatest inheritance you can give yourself. These grandpa stories matter because they remind us that it's never too late to choose yourself. This true story is my gift to you. Learn from my mistakes before they become yours. If this resonates with your heart, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. Drop a comment about your own journey toward freedom. And don't forget to subscribe, because everyone deserves to know their worth isn't defined by what they give away. Your life is waiting. Go claim it.